co-authors of the CGPS, the Construction Good Practice Standards.
And I see we've got Stacey also on the line. Stacey, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Stacey Gadera. I'm Project and Learning Design Manager for DisasterReady.org for the Cornerstone On Demand Foundation. Thanks for having me join, Liz and Kiara and Shane.
That's great. Thank you. Stacey's our VIP. So
just for the session.
So Renee, how have you normally been running these sessions? Do you start promptly, or do you usually give people a couple of minutes to dial in, or what do you recommend?
A couple of minutes. So am I not recording, or?
Oh no, I can see it's telling me you are recording.
It is recording.
Yeah.
So during the intros, you were supposed to be starting. That's why I was confused.
Okay. So
we
Shane,
start the recording, or we stop it and restart?
Okay. No. Well, I think. Well. I know you can crop it, so maybe we should just keep going. Shane, do you want to share the presentation, or should I?
Sure thing. No, I got it right here, and just give me 1 second. Okay. Is that looking for you?
Yes, it looks perfect.
Yes, it looks good.
Excellent.
Great. So thank you everyone for joining. I can see we've got a few more people joining. So as I mentioned, my name is Liz Palmer. I'm the Global Lead for Construction for Save the Children International. And we will just be giving you a brief introduction to what are the construction standards today, as well as some of the amazing progress and exciting updates that we have in terms of what's new, how you can use them, and some, as we mentioned, some really great, updates from other partners. So thanks, Shane. If you want to go on to the next slide. So just quickly as an overview for those who don't know, the Construction Standard Good Practice Standards Working Group was developed in 2017, and it was set up off the back of an internal project that we did in Save the Children International, was to develop some construction standards for our own internal working. And this document has since been endorsed by the Shelter Cluster. We are launching, by way of this presentation and obviously the update last week, the revised version, which is available now on the website. And the basic premise behind them is that they are common standards for the responsible delivery of building construction in humanitarian settings. Now, next slide, please. So what is the CGPS? One of the misconceptions that I think people often have with things like this is that it is not a manual, it is not a how-to guide. It is basically a standard for better construction that is applicable to all circumstances and all building types. So it's been supported and endorsed by the Shelter Cluster, the Global Shelter Cluster. We've been operating as a working group under this cluster for a long time. And I think it's been most widely received by this cluster, primarily because it is also the cluster that is staffed and supported by engineers and kindred spirits. Next slide, please. In your own time, Shane.
Shane?
I did switch the slide, I swear.
Oh no, we're having gremlins.
Oh no, here we go. I'm on the slide. I'm sharing my screen. Yeah.
This happened this morning when we were doing the presentation. Maybe stop sharing and share again.
Okay, no problem. Let me just back up.
I will carry on. So the question that a lot of people ask about the CGPS as well is how can it be used? The CGPS provides standards for the various stages of the construction processes. So what we look at for the various different stages is obviously, it's not just about the implementation phase. We take into account all of the design and planning activities that also need to be done appropriately in order to ensure that the project is delivered on time and safely and critically budgeted appropriately. And we also recognize that they are a commonly agreed baseline level for the good practice of management of construction in humanitarian and development programming. So as a background as well, who uses the CGPS? We use it, all of us. The implementing organizations are the ones that would directly use the standards, but we also recommend that donors also reference these standards to help them understand the requirements and cost implications at each stage in the project. And we have some great examples of that coming up. Next slide, please.
Okay, so just I'm gonna turn my camera on for this one. Here we go. Okay, is that can everybody see me? Is that?
No.
No? Okay, this is ever so slightly technologically backwards. Okay, so I have, here we go.
The summary page.
Yep. Okay,
Yeah.
there we go. Yep. Okay, good. So I just gotta flip back to that. Just give me 2 seconds and we will from current slide. Okay, so basically, I want to talk to you a little bit about the setup of the CGPS. So as you can see here from this, it's basically set up in the same way you'd arrange a construction project. It starts off proposal development, planning, design, procurement, construction, handover, maintenance. And so that was intentional. Originally, some of our setup was a little bit backwards, but we elected to switch it just so that it follows a logical progression. And the main issue with that a lot of people have is that things like this aren't started at the beginning. So we wanted to start the standard right at the proposal stage, because if you have the money to do the construction properly, if you have the money to hire engineers and hire what you need, the project is going to work. If you discover at the construction phase that your design didn't work and you need to go back and revise things, it's too late. You know, the money is fixed, the money's got a date that it expires, it's too late for that. So what I wanted to do was look at one section in particular. And so I picked out section C5. I'm a structural engineer. This is probably my favorite section. It's got to do with design. And it also, for me, corrects a lot of things that aren't happening right now. So what this is, just a quick overview, is this part here in green is the actual standard. Like that's the actual part of the standard that you're going to follow. And the green key action is basically the deliverable of that standard. So you need to follow this and deliver the highlighted green. Now the bottom here are just some guidance notes onto as to about the actual standard. So looking at this one a little deeper, and the reason why I picked this one, so this is about independent design verification. So basically having your design checked by someone else, basically a third party who's also an expert, to make sure that the design you have is good. So now, why is this important? In a developing country, you're not going to have a functioning building department in general. In a developed country, you have a functioning building department, you do a design, you send it to them, they approve it, and they say, okay, your design meets the building code, no problem. And then they'll drop it in your construction project periodically to check on it and make sure it's doing well. So you have expert third-party people automatically embedded in the process. Now, in a developing country, you may or may not have that. And if you do have it, it may not be strong enough to catch mistakes that are happening. So the reason why we have this, independent verification of life safety aspects. So basically, if something can fall and kill somebody, as a minimum, at different junctures. So you see, C here is talking about, it's going to be at the construction stage. B is talking about the check at the design stage. This is basically augmenting or replacing the function of the building department that would normally happen. Okay, so the key action here, as you can see, is the sign off to say that all, by the head engineer saying that all these steps were followed. And the guidance notes, as you can see, there's only a couple paragraphs of guidance notes. As Liz was mentioning, not a how-to manual. If you were to do a how-to manual on how to do all this, it'd be volumes and volumes long. So that's not the goal of this. The goal of this is to give Samza what to do and then have experts and other people brought in to actually make that happen. Okay, so now next we want to talk about the goals of the CGPS. So practically, safer construction, that's the goal. Now, what exactly is safer construction? So for us, safer construction is safer construction during the actual construction, implementation of health safety, monitoring of health safety guidelines, because again, in a developing country, you aren't necessarily going to have an inspector show up to check for health and safety. You're not going to have, possibly even not even have health and safety standards that are, available or enforced. Also, we want the project to be safer during the lifetime of the project. So in the example of a building, if the building were to fall down during normal use and kill somebody, that's not safe. Or if the building were to fall down in a tropical storm when it should have been designed for a Category 2 hurricane, that's also not good. Now, what is all this? the term that we always talk about is resilience. And so we're actually building in resilience by putting in, the CGPS, and by having it so that it actually meets a building code and meets a minimum level standard. So instead of failing early, every 10 years your house collapsed because you have, a tropical storm or a small hurricane roll through, you now have a house that is going to withstand that, and you're not going to lose everything every 10 years. So we're building in resilience. And with this, your project is more likely to live out its full design life. And the other thing is, during a big hurricane or a big earthquake, people don't often realize that design isn't meant to, your building isn't necessarily going to be perfect after that during a code level earthquake. However, it should collapse in a certain way where the building doesn't collapse on you. It fails, but you're still able to escape the building. So a lot less human life will be lost. So that's part of the thing. In this here, I put the example of Haiti in the slide here, where almost 250,000 people were killed. Port-au-Prince was leveled. And a lot of this was because buildings weren't built to code at all. People just kind of did whatever. The building department functioning, not really. So no,
Shane?
operationally, yes?
Sorry to
Yes.
interrupt. I just,
Yeah.
I don't think we're on the right slide. It is not moving.
I'm on
It's
the,
frozen
Yeah.
again on the last slide.
okay. Thank you for
Yeah.
letting me know. Okay, I'm on the, what are the goals of the CGPS? That's not showing?
Now it is, but we didn't
Now
see
it
the one
is,
on
yeah.
Haiti.
Okay. So it's showing now. What are the goals of the CGPS?
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. There might be a delay, so I'll keep that in mind. Okay, thank you for letting me know. So operationally, what we want would be that donors, implementing agencies, and organizations use the CGPS in construction projects. Why? Basically, the short answer to that is build back safer and build back better. And so the standard sets minimum standards, for projects, and basically the humanitarian sector has quite a poor construction record, and the CGPS can help replace that. I've seen personally many situations where international organizations, NGOs were rebuilding in Haiti, as an example, the exact same way that that was done before when it fell down, which was not very good from an engineering point of view. Okay, so next slide. So this is the main one. What are the goals of the CGPS? So the main goal that we're looking for here is a paradigm shift. So I was watching a YouTube video of one of the past sessions by Build Change, which is really cool. It was about retrofitting houses for like afterwards, after an event, retrofitting a house to make it stronger so it will withstand the event. And they talked about 3 elements that were required to be able to do that. So one is financial, having the money to be able to retrofit your house. The second one is supply, being able to access the materials to do it. And the third one was demand, so that the people owning the house want to have a better house. And so in this case here, we're trying to build a demand within the humanitarian industry to meet construction standards that are proper construction standards. So for example here, good enough for, let's say Haiti, or good enough for whatever, is not good enough. It's too expensive. That shouldn't be an excuse, because when you start at the proposal stage, you've accounted for engineers and they're not too expensive. So basically we want to build back better and safer, and not just on paper. We need to drastically increase the demand for more resilient and safer buildings. Okay, so we did a presentation, 2 years ago. And in that presentation, we talked about the exclusions of the CGPS. So if the project is short term, if the owner is building it, and you can see here, I've crossed that off. And the reason why I've crossed it off is because every project, shelter projects included, can fit into the CGPS in most ways. Most projects have planning, most projects have elements of design, construction, and handover. All of these things are part and parcel of any construction project. So for example, the example I like to bring up is Cox's Bazar. Tarps, bamboo, a very huge shelter project. However, engineering support and was there, cross bracing, lateral bracing for the shelters, for the bigger things like temporary hospitals, spacing of bamboo for the columns, spacing of bamboo for the beams and the joists. All these things were were come up with by an engineer and actually checked. But a lot of those things, planning, design, construction, and handover, all of that happened in it. So the CGPS is not 100% applicable to all projects, but any project in humanitarian context involving construction is involved with most aspects of the CGPS. Okay. So I want to pass it off to Liz now to talk about some of the CGPS accomplishments.
Yes, thank you so much, Shane. So we're very pleased to be able to present on a number of amazing things that have happened in the past few years, and that we've reached the point now where within the Global Shelter Cluster framework, we're moving from the working group into what is called a community of practice. And the aim, of course, behind the community of practice is to continue the conversation, to engage with partners in the cluster and out, to try and improve on what we've done to date, and also to ensure that we have you can be part of the conversation. So what we're trying to do going forward is obviously to share lessons learned and examples of how the standards are being used, who's involved in it, how we can advocate for greater support, and also to ensure that you have access to some of the tools and lessons that we've already been able to pull together from our experiences in the past. So we've done a full revision on and relaunch of the construction good practice standards. They've had a bit of a face change. We've changed there's a beautiful, we kind of stole it a little bit from Sphere, but the identity is a lot more streamlined. And I think primarily that was based on the principle that people are printing this document out and using a lot of ink to get through some of the very dark blocks. So we've just streamlined it into a very simple identity. We've also tried to streamline the information as it is delivered to you. So the standard is very clearly identified as what should the key actions be under that principle. So design for safety, designs must meet local and international building codes for life safety as a minimum. And then there's a key action there for you. And then there's a section below that gives you a certain amount of guidance and activities that should be undertaken. We've also reworded it for clarity and conciseness, and also recognizing our international audience. Next slide, please. We've also had incredible progress in seeing how this has been endorsed and adopted by other agencies, including donors. So here we have a screenshot, it's coming, I promise, of the Humanitarian Advisor Guidance, Technical Guidance for Shelter, which is a publication from DFID. Still not coming, Shane.
Oh, I switched it about 30 seconds ago.
Okay, you've gone off.
Just share and unshare again, just to see if I can fix that.
But this was actually included into the DFID guidance in 2018, which is amazing. It's been lurking there quietly, giving guidance to all humanitarian advisors for DFID, where they very clearly state that it's critical that DFID ensures partners have robust quality assurance processes in place from the concept stage of construction programs, and that these processes are followed throughout. Compliance with the Global Shelter Cluster's construction good practice standards should be a requirement for all DFID partners engaging in construction activities. So this has been growing in terms of the support that's been coming from our donors, and it certainly shows a great level of endorsement from DFID, or FCDO as they are now called, in terms of ensuring that projects that are being paid for by the British government through DFID are going to be compliant with these standards. Shane, I'm requesting control.
Okay, I will, I'll drop the, okay, so I've stopped sharing.
Yeah, I think you're in trouble there. How's that?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So the next slide is actually to show you who else has referenced it and how we've seen a tremendous uptake and recognition of the need for these standards from other agencies. CRS have included a reference to the good practice standards in their very, very recently updated version 2021, how to manage construction guide. And you'll see there that the terminology they use here is emergency recovery and development. Yes, Chiara.
Sorry, but are you sharing the presentation now that you're requesting control, or because there's no presentation?
No, it's, thank you.
You're welcome.
That might be the wrong slide, in fact.
No, you're good, you're good.
There was no.
1 second. I've got two screens here, so I have to make sure I'm doing the right one. There we go. Okay, there we go. So yes, so you can see here CRS have included that. And one of the things that, unfortunately, Lisa wasn't able to join today, but she said one of the things that she found very useful for her and how they've incorporated this is particularly the guidance around how we should be budgeting for technical assistance. Knowing that, of course, the complexity of a building has a varying range of requirements in terms of supervision, the number of staff, the distances you have to travel, the duration of the project, etc. And that references back to one of the standards within our set of standards, and which is so great. So that was feedback from CRS. Swiss Solidarity have included in their guidance for the minimum standards of reconstruction of buildings for public use. They've referenced the international standards that partners should comply with as being the construction standards, which is so great. And obviously the latest version will include our latest updates. And then two other agencies that we've seen some great endorsement from. The top one there is Concern Worldwide. So John Helam also unfortunately hasn't been able to join us today, but he very sweetly has been engaging with me on this and has actually incorporated a huge amount of process management from the standards. He references the standards, and he's also taken up under the engineering project phases all of the standard phases of a project stages, and also references the document that we've done. I also just wanted to tell you he has also adapted them into many other aspects to meet internal procedures such as finance, logistics, etc. And I think that also I can echo that from our side with Save the Children, in that the processes that we underline here are trying to streamline our interaction with our other support functions, like finance and procurement, in order to ensure that they can also do their job better. And then finally, a core competency guidance note that was developed by NRC for the construction of quality educational facilities also references a number of the tools, project management tools from the construction good practice standards, such as this little graphic from the work plan. And then finally, the accomplishments that we've come to for this year, we have a website, constructionstandards.org, where the construction standards have been uploaded. We will also be uploading, to support the conversation, a lot of the tools and other feedback that we're getting from other partners and agencies. We have launched a Facebook page in order to also facilitate a much lighter-hearted conversation. And I think that's also moving into this community of practice, trying to get the dialogue going and to have the conversations about how we can help you better. And then I'm going to be handing over to our VIP, Stacey, from Disaster Ready, to explain to you about the amazing training that they have developed in partnership with us. So over to you, Stacey.
Okay, great. So thanks so much, Liz, and the team for having me join. VIP is so special. I work for the disasterready.org, which is the initiative of the Cornerstone On Demand Foundation. We've been working really closely with this team and really are excited about transforming the construction good practice standards into one of our ready-to-go mobile guides, which I will be giving a very sneak preview of that in a moment. But before that, just in case any of you might not be familiar with disasterready.org, we are an open online portal and providing online free courses, resources, videos, all types of training content to over 300,000 humanitarian and development professionals and volunteers worldwide. We've been around since 2010, and when you create your account on Disaster Ready, you will have access to our catalog of over 1,000 free courses and resources in a range of from different providers in English, Arabic, French, and Spanish. We also we work with a lot of partners, even some of you may be on the call, to host training for free for the sector, and we also develop online courses in partnership, as we've been doing with this team, for the mobile guide, because our expertise is more on learning technology and e-learning. So we rely on Liz, Shane, and Kiara to bring this content to life, but making it online accessible. So for the next slide, I'm going to just talk a little bit about, we're going to be launching. So what we did is we took, with the help of this team, of course, and the new standards document, we we took the essence of this document and we created it into a mobile-friendly learning performance support tool. We've been developing these mobile guides for the past 2 years and on other topics related to shelter protection and distributions, some with the Global Shelter Cluster, IOM, and the Global Protection Cluster 2 on different topics around these areas. So when you go and you check out this guide, you can also find other related topics that can also, develop a kind of a nice collection there. So what we did, I'm going to try to share my screen here so I can show you a little bit about this content. So just bear with me 1 second. Can you see my screen? Oops.
Yes.
Just one. Okay,
Yes.
great. Okay, so here we go. So this is actually, it's in draft mode, but we are going to be launching this mobile guide. It is in the form of an e-learning course, but it's not really a full course, as in a comprehensive long training. It's really designed for field staff. It takes you about 15, maybe 20 minutes at max to go through the different sections. So inspired by the document, we've broken down this really easy to use menu where you can have, so you can pick and choose where you want to go into the guide. So for example, into the introduction, you have some of the overview of why engineering is important, the construction challenges, risks, things like that. And you'll see all of the photos are from the shelter project, projects.org. And then you can also go into actually the standards themselves. So then it breaks it down into practical tips, checklists, do's and don'ts. And these are really action items. So inspired by the best practice standards, you can then see what you can do in your program to apply this to your work. Maybe some of it's not all relevant, but then that way you can break down the standards. For example, if you're going into design, this is all the inspired by each of the different standards, breaking it down into really teachable topics. So this kind of format, we've been experimenting because we have a lot of our disaster ready learners are in the field, they have low bandwidth. It is designed mobile first. So as you can see on your phone, it's really easy to take on a tablet or a smaller smartphone device. And it's something that you can reference on the go. We're going to have a downloadable printable guide, which is going to be a PDF of the script that you find in this mobile guide. So we've been seeing a lot of people using these guides as pre-training. It can be a performance support tool like a job aid, but it can also inspire a bit of coaching and mentoring around the topics and just open up some conversations around the standards so you can get some of those, what are the standards, what I can do, and then they can share their case studies as well. So I hope that with the team, we've been, this is a nice way that we can put this out there. It's for free. It's in English for now. We're looking maybe into some future translations into other languages, but we can also gain some really important feedback about who's taking this, where they're located. We have a lot of learner feedback that will tell us what they liked, what they need. So it could inform a possible long course in the future, a training, or just really be a really nice standalone, job aid that can accompany the standards as well. And then they'll always have the reference to the standards in the resources too, so they can do these at the same time. So I think, we're looking forward. We're going to be launching this. And of course, if you have any feedback on it, it's been such a pleasure working with this whole team on this project. And we're really excited to see the uptake of this guide. And it just might open up other doors to develop other topics related to the standards and more. So I'll just leave it there. And if you have any questions about the format, we picked activities in this guide, especially that are light, so people can use them in the field. There's no animation or heavy video, so it's really designed to be taken on your phone anytime, anywhere. So that's a little bit overview of this guide. Please check it out, and we'll be announcing it on social media, email, and I'm sure Liz, Shane, and Kiara will send you some more details on when it's out there so we can get your feedback. Great. Liz, I don't know if you wanted to add anything. I know this was a labor of love that we've been working on. So if there's anything else you wanted to point out about the guide.
No, I think just to say that obviously we recognize that it's a lot of content to go into a brief mobile guide, and what, from my experience certainly, and I'm sure others can back me up on this, there are various different aspects of each of these standards that we can really delve into. Some of the priority areas for me, of course, is safety, and I think although we address safety on a very basic level, there's all sorts of training that can be developed also, you know, to be in the pockets of the field engineers is really the aim. Knowing that that's our target audience. These are the guys who need the training and to understand how they can be supported better. So we're really going to be looking at what are the additional tips, tools, tricks, checklists, you know, that we can use to support our colleagues and partners' colleagues. You know, as we've developed these things, a lot of them in Save the Children, we really have a wealth of experience and knowledge and understanding of where the gaps are in terms of general understanding on these concepts, particularly as, you know, one country's safety standard is going to vary very differently from another one. And the amount of times I see women in flip-flops digging trenches, you know, it's true to me that we've got a long way to go. So yeah, we're very excited about future collaborations on this topic, and obviously anyone who wants to get involved in that, you know, join the community of practice. It would be really lovely to have more engagement on this.
Yeah.
Stacey, shall I take over?
Sorry. Yes, please.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Okay, let's see if that's sharing. Is that sharing? No. Yes. Okay, great. So just quickly, having said, you know, obviously that Save the Children has been doing this for a number of years, we've started rolling out our own internal standards since 2016, and we've been working with a number of country offices, some with more success than others on the basis of the amount of work, etc., that they've had to do. We've signed off in excess of 15 countries now, where we see sizable portfolios of construction activities being undertaken. And we track this using what we call the benchmark assessment. So we, for each of the standards that we have in Save the Children, we have a version that's slightly got more strategic planning. We have 26 standards. And through the benchmarking assessment, you can track compliance from 0 to 3. 3 obviously being the best. So the closer you are to the outer of the circle, the better you are. And we develop an action plan for change with the country office, and we work through it with them to ensure that they are supported. And you can see that a lot of it is you know, not necessarily always related to just construction staff. So of course, the proposal development, etc., you're going to need your proposal development team, you know, the various different technical advisors. Similarly, when it comes to your tender procedures, procurement procedures, you're going to need to be liaising very closely with your procurement team. So depending on how well you're working with those various different teams, you're also going to see better or greater kind of scores rating on that. But we're very pleased to be able to say that in every country office, we've seen remarkable uptake. And what it really lends itself to is greater team working within these different departments. And I think that's something that we always have to remember, that it's not just about the engineers doing a good job. You can do a great job, but if somebody hasn't budgeted appropriately and included you in the discussions, you're never going to end up having a great building. And so that's really the lessons that we've come out across with our activities. But for each country office, there's a baseline report, an action plan. We do a mid-state report and then an end-state report, but we continue to support those teams. The great news is that we actually have a wealth of knowledge and experience within Save the Children now who are able to share this information and knowledge and train other people. So it's created an incredibly high caliber of staff that I can really recommend for all partners to strive to achieve. And we will be developing a benchmark assessment for the international global standard interagency set in order for country officers to take a self-assessment and get a temperature check on how do you feel your NGO or partner is doing. Yeah, so I think over to Chiara.
Thank you. There was a timing. Thanks a lot for all your slides, and it's been a teamwork, I have to say. So, I mean, to me, the last few remaining slides and talking about what are the future steps for for the construction good practice standards working group, and where are we leading to. So basically, you've heard all the achievements and kind of the genesis of the working group, what has been done, the exciting also experience that we wish to start up with the disaster ready and all of that. So what is the main steps as the main steps, the main goals, as Lizzie also indicated earlier, it's for us to move from working group to community of practice. And this for us is a big chapter. Um, it's going to be a big chapter because we will also look at enhancing our relationship with the other community of practice working groups as well, particularly with self-recovery, disability, inclusion, environment, and shelter and cash. But with all the others anyway, because it's really construction is a cross-cutting with a sector where we touch and base each aspect of the construction and the community as well. It does not affect only the construction itself. What else? Of course, we, as also my colleague said earlier, we've been endorsed by donors and other clusters and organizations, but we're looking at new endorsements from new donors. We received also requests from other donors to be involved more, and we look forward for new exciting possible coordinations and endorsement by them. What does it mean? Also be included, also be included and be what's the word, embedded in the technical documents of other organizations and other donors. We also would like to advocate at different levels with other clusters. We've been doing that. Hold on a second, just in the previous slides, I think you still have to. But anyway, yeah, we'd like to advocate also with different levels with other clusters, and see if we can ensure also cross-sectoral utilization of the standards. With the other organizations, I also, yes, we wish to be cross-referenced in other documents, move forward, and to advocate our presence. And that's why also the website and the Facebook page and all of that. But why not? We also believe that this document, it's finalized for sure, but why not maybe to include more feedbacks in the next years, I would say, because at least for a few years we will keep it as it is. It's been such a great effort. Thank you, Lisa. Maybe next slide. Yeah, and how you can be involved, like my colleague said, we have built a specific construction standard website, because moving from the working group to the COP to the community of practice new shape, we are looking at also feeding more often into the construction website and downloading, where you can actually download directly the document and extrapolate information, up-to-date information. We're going to do the same in the Facebook page, and you're welcome to share also information and updates. Please also, and the presentation from, unfortunately, we gave only 2 slides to Stacy, but she has much more to say, and you have much more to see as soon as you log in the page that she showed you. But please join the module as soon as you be available, and other trainings as well, I would say. I personally, for my organization, I'm going to use it also to spread the word at field level with other country programs, because I think it's awesome, especially in those field locations where you don't have good access to internet. Yes, and also please spread the word. Use the standards with the other organization, with your own organization, and we are also willing to, as we said, we've been lucky so much to see the engagement from other partners that have embedded the standards in their manuals. Among main organization, I would say, my mind, Concern, CRS, and also NRC in their guidance, the education manual, if I'm not mistaken. Liz, correct me if I'm wrong. And yes, so we are also willing to also organize on-spot trainings as well, beside disaster-ready training, but also to explain and organize workshop or specific calls also to explain what the construction good practice standards is and how can we coordinate, collaborate, and how can we and improve the quality of the constructions. And is there any other slides, Lisa? Next one. Or is
No, that's it. We're
end?
finished.
That's it.
I see we've got a number of questions in the chat box, and
Yes.
thank you so much for those. Yes, so thank you, Stacey, for answering the one to Dana. In fact, Dana, it would be really, really great if you want to connect with us afterwards. Please send an email. Oh, we don't have our email on here. Shane. We'll put it in the chat box. We don't actually have any tools yet within the global standards, but we have a number of tools that have been developed within Save the Children that I'm going to be making available generally. And it's very good that you asked this question because, in fact, it's a bit of a gap area. We focus very heavily in Save the Children on child safeguarding. We've developed posters that go up around the construction sites, particularly around pit latrines. We see that there's a lot of accidents that happen around pit latrine construction, particularly because it is, such a prevalent structure, and it's also one that generally we get the communities involved in the process. And so there's a general kind of hands-off, this isn't our responsibility type of approach. So we have a lot of awareness raising, and this goes back to the other question that I see from our other participant, Arwin, and thank you so much for that. The question, how can the standards contribute to an increased demand in structure where we're working with the common people when we are using owner-driven reconstruction or retrofitting? And it's a very good point. The standards really set in place a baseline approach for all activities. And if you're working with communities, these standards also need to be applied to the community groups as well, which should be our responsibility as the implementing partner to ensure that the community is I hate this word because it's not English, but capacitated or trained on how to do safe construction and how to make sure that the design of the structure is not just the same old status quo, that we are looking at embedding disaster risk reduction and resilience techniques into it. So we have a number of activities that we can support with, particularly as you asked about checklists. Save the Children has developed a lot. And what we will be doing, obviously, is uploading a lot of these to the website. But very basic, hygiene and maintenance stations, etc., for the latrine construction. And Dana, if you'd like to join the community of practice, I'd love to develop a checklist for this gap area, because you're absolutely right. Integrating gender and inclusion in construction. We have done a lot of work in Save the Children on ensuring that office infrastructure is accessible, and we have a guidance note for that. There's also a disability inclusion working group within the shelter cluster that's also led by Lisa and Leanne, and they've been doing a lot of good work around the shelter processes, but obviously we're looking at the bigger picture, which is all infrastructure and breaking down barriers, both kind of within the four walls, but also ensuring that the general facility approach to people with disabilities has been tempered to be more inclusive. So I think there's a lot of really, really good work that we can feed into on that. And Arwin, please join the conversation. Let's get started. If we can help you to work with your community owner-driven construction, how to improve it. We've done a lot of work with that in Save the Children as well. So we're very, very, very excited to be able to share the lessons that we've learned. And as you said here, you asked these great questions. Let's get going. I think this is a great opportunity for us to start developing tools together as a community. Thank you.
Just to add in one thing with to Arwin's point, it's a perfect example of where the CGPS doesn't apply to absolutely everything. So you can show an owner how to build, safely, give, tips and techniques. However, every single house is going to be different. So you're not going to have a specific, design for each house that's, exactly the same. So again, similar to Cox's Bazaar, this is not the design section is not 100% applicable in this case, for what you're doing. However, community engagement is the same. Some of your design is the same. You're going to be producing maybe, IEC materials to help guide people. A lot of that stuff, engaging the community, all the same. And just the other point, to Dana's point, there are places in the standard that reference gender inclusivity and gender sensitivity. However, the things Liz are talking about are definitely separate to the standard, kind of like tools we're going to add to the website. But the standard itself would probably never have directly in it a checklist for gender. It would refer to it because that's going to be different contextually. So there could never be one standard or one checklist for gender that applies universally. So that would always be kind of a separate tool that we'd have on the side. Any other questions or any other?
I don't think so.
Okay, so I think we can wrap this up then.
Super.
Maybe we can just mention that about the construction standard webpage, that it's kind of work in progress as people find we found we're just adjusting the page basically.
It's a bit glitchy today, so it didn't come
Yeah.
out quite like we expected. So it'll be fixed, but the information is still accessible, still there. But if it comes up a little funny, we're working on it. So
Absolutely.
And also, I just want
Excellent.
to make a big shout out to the Global Shelter Cluster partners and UNHCR and IFRC and everyone involved in developing the website for the Shelter Cluster. They've done amazing things. I'm so super excited about where we're going to go with this. You can come to the Shelter Cluster page and follow the working group. So then as we create updates and share new information and tools, etc., you'll be able to receive that information automatically. And then you'll automatically be informed of any updates that we're going to be doing, or any presentations, lessons learned, etc. So come along to the website and follow the working group, and we look forward to the next updates from everyone. Would love to find out if you're using it in your organization as well, like we've shown with so many others.
Miriam has a question.
Excellent.
Yeah, no, not a question, just a comment, just to say thank you so much. This is indeed amazing work. And just to let you know, we are kind of every month talking about quality, and this is a theme. And not this version, but the previous version, we used this in Iran, and it was
Excellent.
super useful to raise the bar.
Oh, wow.
So it is being used in the field, and it brings many concepts very clearly. So I look forward to continue collaboration, and thank you so much. It's really, really needed and very good job. Thank you.
Oh, thanks.
Oh,
Miriam.
excellent. Thank you.
That's
Thank
amazing. Please join our working group. I'd absolutely love to get that two-way feedback. And of course, as we say, like, we've developed a lot of tools, and my big thing is I'm absolutely hopeless when it comes to an original thought, but I'm really good at plagiarizing other people's work. And I'm very happy to give up all of our tools for the speedy use of other partners. It's a pleasure for us to ensure that not just one agency's construction, but all construction is safe for children and for our beneficiaries. So that's great.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Amazing.
Excellent. Thank you
Thanks
very
so
much.
Everyone. Have a lovely evening.
To all
Thank
of
you.
you and my colleagues.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, Stacey. Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.